Welcome to CPR's YouTube channel, part four of our discussion with Jack Levin. I'm Russ Bleemer. I edit Alternatives to the High Cost of Litigation for CPR. Jack, the last time in part three, we were discussing arbitration innovations that produce security, which in turn boosts party autonomy. That is, what we're talking about here is control over the dispute and control over and support for a better outcome for the parties. You talked about MedArb in part three, and that was a lot of fun. It's an innovative tool. It's been around for a while, but it's still new to a lot of people. In your same neutral MedArb take on it still stands as an innovation that parties don't necessarily avail themselves enough of. You can see part three and all the other parts here below at the links to CPR's YouTube channel here. Jack, you discussed the ability also with MedArb to correct an award if needed. But in terms of innovations, you left a couple on the table that we didn't have time for. First here today, what about motions for reconsideration and arbitration? That idea, I believe there's been a lot of proposals out there. 2021, the New York City Bar Association did a report. It suggested modifying institutional rules, ones that would allow arbitrators to correct substantive errors if the parties authorize it. Would this approach strengthen confidence in arbitration by ensuring that accuracy and finality don't have to be mutually exclusive, or would it just add to the extent of the process and make it more difficult in the end? What do you think about the idea that we can have motions for reconsideration on the table for your average arbitration?
I would say, Russ, that any process that is available or optional to the parties, which is to say that they can choose from or exercise their freedom to take, is probably worthwhile. And motions for reconsideration are among them. Now, there's been institutional resistance to that, as there often is to anything that expands the activity within arbitration, such as depositions or other processes that are more associated with litigation. But if parties have freedom, if this is a voluntary process, then they should have the opportunity to avail themselves of whatever tools work for them in this matter. What is most efficient and economical, which is what arbitration advertises itself as being, will depend upon the case. And so motions to reconsideration, in my view, should be among those tools.
Well, it's interesting you said there's been some institutional resistance, party resistance as well.
Well, I think that I wouldn't say party resistance so much as lawyer resistance.
Lawyer
Lawyers, if
resistance.
anything,
Yeah.
are creatures of habit. And even though arbitration provides freedom, it's not a freedom that the lawyers necessarily experienced and exercising. And remember, of course, that the freedom has to be a matter of consent. So it's not just what one party chooses, it's what they do together. And there's a general reluctance in all conflict to agree on anything. So I think the resistance is mostly among the lawyers and among those who have less experience.
Have any lawyers or parties used their ability for party autonomy and opted for motions for reconsideration and then used them? Have you seen this in your experience? Has it
Right.
come up?
And that's how I became aware of it. I had a matter over 10 years ago between two global they were financially related institutions. And their clause was very simple. It named the institution, it named the rules, and then it said that upon the rendering of a final award, either side within 30 days could move to have any issue reconsidered at the expense of the losing party. And people would not like that generally because it would seem to be an invitation to relitigate everything, which often happens in court. And in this particular matter, which was very big, we had like 3 weeks of hearings. Each side chose a few issues to raise with me by way of a motion to reconsider. And it turns out that one of them actually required me to change my mind. But the consequence in a multi-million dollar case was about $35,000. The important part, though, is that by giving them a chance to correct or to have the arbitrator correct any mistake, not just a clerical error, but a mistake on the merits, I think this will lead people to be more content to live with the award and not to move to vacate. And in that particular case, as I mentioned in a prior session, the public companies were involved, and I read quickly thereafter that the award was paid.
Mhm.
So yes, the idea for me came from parties who had done it.
You think the arbitral institutions should, for lack of a better phrase, push this more?
I think that they should either make it available in their rules as an option or as part of their education of the user community and the lawyer community. They should tell people this has been done.
Okay. Another innovation, and this has popped up before also in the previous pods. I think we'll get to it down the road as well. But you'll see on other videos. I want to return to it. Would more education and promotion of the wide availability of arbitration appeals help? Is that an innovation that can work? As I said before, the use of it has been disappointing, but they've all got them. CPR, which hosts this YouTube channel, has arbitration rules and certainly allows for arbitration appeals, a whole separate set of rules that incorporates that. JAMS and the AAA do as well. What more on that? Is that an innovation that could help?
Well, as you point out, it's available, I think, in most institutional rules, and it's not availed of. And I think the reason is that it invites a relitigation of the entire matter unless you've limited it. And that would seem to be at the far end of what you want arbitration to be. On the other hand, if the matter is big and the parties want a lot of confidence in the outcome, then they've got real appellate judges who can do this. But I think that as a tool to be regularly available, it's unlikely to be used both because it's cumbersome and expensive.
hmm that wraps up with motions of consideration for reconsideration and the appeals process, along with the med-arb that we talked about before, and also somewhere in betwixt and between all of them, the idea of correcting mistakes. That wraps up some of the innovations of control that you wanted to bring out. Is there anything else, any other tweaking, or should we move on and wrap up this video and move on to some of the reviews of the existing safeguards in part four?
No, I think we've done it. Keep going.
Jack, thanks so much for joining us again. And you, viewers, you already have a preview of where we're going and what we're doing the next time. So you'll see that soon here on CPR's YouTube channel. Jack, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Russ.